And just so everyone's aware, there is transcription at the bottom if you're struggling to hear myself or Claire, and there'll be access to a recording of this as well. So you'll be able to look back on it and cover anything that maybe you didn't catch live. Okay, so welcome everyone to the double book launch for Clare, Helen, Welsh. We're here to celebrate 2 of our books, which are being released today, published today. And we're going to be learning a little bit more about the books themselves. We're going to be chatting to Clare about her inspiration in writing both of them as well. We'll get a little reading from her as well, which is going to be nice. It's always nice to hear the words from the author's voice. I was just saying to Claire before we came on that my poor daughter gets to hear it in a middle-aged Scotsman's voice, so it'll be nice to actually hear it from the person that wrote them as well. And then we'll do a few questions, so if you've got any questions for Clare, you can either put them in the chat box, or you can obviously unmute yourself and do it on camera. And then we'll finish with a bit of a fun quiz, which is all about Clare appropriately. And we'll see how you get on and how well you know Clare and her books as well at that stage. So, yeah, a warm welcome to everyone that's come along tonight. We've got a very busy room live here on Zoom, and to anyone else who's watching on YouTube as well, welcome. We are going to start off, first of all, just by introducing Clare herself and her 2 books, so that you know a little bit more about them. With it being launch day, you might not yet have got your copy. I was lucky enough that Clare sent me a couple of copies of her books, so I'll just hold them up there just now so you can see them. And she kindly dedicated them to my daughter as well, who absolutely loved that. That was a really special touch. So Clare's 2 books are Everything Changes. So Everything Changes is a sensitive told story that addresses the tricky subject of divorce with care and understanding. And it's written obviously by Clare and illustrated by Asa Gilland. Now, I've got to say, I really, really agree with that statement. I was chatting to Clare about this beforehand, but she has really sensitively and beautifully told a story about divorce that really strikes home for someone like myself who experienced that as a child as well. So it was really, really nice to read a story that delves into that and helps children to sort of, I think, process their emotions around such a difficult time and so on. So, yeah, it really hit home when I read Everything Changes. So a really beautiful book. And a little bit different to that are All the Animals Were Sleeping. Now, All the Animals Were Sleeping is a beautiful picture book about the ways in which the animals sleep in the Serengeti. It's obviously written by Clare and it's illustrated by Jenny Lovely. And again, I really loved that the journey of the small mongooses that went through the Serengeti, and it was encountering all the other animals and the various ways in which they sleep as well. And I know that my daughter loves seeing all the illustrations, and it is beautifully illustrated, and the different various methods that the animals used in their own sleeping. I think she was surprised to see it's a leopard that sleeps up in a tree, isn't it? Is that right?
There's something to note in the back. Is it a cheetah? Is it a leopard? It's a kind of a little extra bit of a quiz for the reader.
Yeah, and what I love about that particular book is it's got all the facts at the back. That my daughter loves those. I think all kids like that, don't they? They're all obsessed with facts at that age. So again, another beautifully written and beautifully illustrated book as well. So that's the 2 books that we're here to celebrate tonight. So obviously, this isn't a solo process when you're writing a picture book. There are lots and lots of people involved, and there are a few people involved here tonight. So I think Alice, who is Clare's agent, is here. Can I see Alice on video? I'm not sure if I can. There's 2 screens. Oh yeah, hi Alice. So Alice is giving us a wee wave there. So obviously Alice is Clare's agent and would have been responsible for selling both these stories. And Alice has been your long-time agent. When did you sign with Alice?
It was 2015, I think, or maybe 2015 in January, I believe. Yeah, so a few years.
and I know you've produced a lot of books together and sold those as well. That's actually something that's going to come up in the quiz a bit later on, is to see if anyone knows how prolific you have been over the years with that. And then obviously the illustration in both books. So Jenny Lovely, who's the illustrator on All the Animals Were Sleeping, which is produced by Nosy Crow, and Asa Gilland, who is the illustrator on Everything Changes. And I think, do we have your illustrators in tonight?
No, Oza's not here this evening, but we do have representation from Little Tiger. Team Tiger are here. I think we've got 2 editors. We've got Ellie Farmer. She was the commissioning editor on Everything Changes.
Hi, Ellie. Are you on camera, Ellie?
I am, yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
And who else do we have? Sorry, Claire.
And we have Perry. So Perry was the editor on this story, which was actually quite nice because Ellie took it on initially and then Perry joined Little Tiger. So he's been some very keen eyes on making this extra polished, and yeah, all the things you said about it are probably all down to Perry's keen eyes and extra layer of detail in editing. Perry's there somewhere. Hi, Perry.
Hello.
Yeah, I think on my second screen, but yeah. Lovely to have you both with us tonight, and obviously a big integral part of the production of the book as well. And what about on the other side, Claire, on the Everything Changes side?
So Perry and Ellie are the editors on Everything Changes from Team Tiger.
Sorry. Yeah, the Nosy Crow side, I meant, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, no, Tegan Evans was the editor on All the Animals Are Sleeping, and she's just got married, so I believe she's on honeymoon. So
congratulations.
Unfortunately, can't be here. Well, I can understand why.
Yeah, no, we get a good representation, though, and a lot of people in the room to support you, so it's really, really nice. Now, Claire, I know that you said that you would do a couple of pages of reading from both of your books. So are you happy to do that just now? And I'll let you decide which one you do first.
I'll go for the one that was that I've prepared first. I practiced because I didn't want to get this and mess this up. So I practiced reading Everything Changes first, which, as you said, Stuart, is published by Little Tiger and illustrated by Oza Gilland, who is fantastic at nature and pattern, I think. I mean, just have a look at the end pages. It's there. She's a real talent. This is our second book together because we also did The Perfect Shelter. So if you know that story, this is the second together. And the tagline is, when parents break up, will things ever be the same? And as Stuart said, it's a story about exploring the difficult feelings that children and adults might have when parents separate. I love summertime. We laugh and play together beneath the bright blue sky. And with sun on our faces and sand on our face, we build, build, build. But everything changes. Mummy and Daddy tell me they can't live together anymore. Cold washes over my hands and feet. I cry. It's not fair. Sometimes grown-ups separate, they say, but parents are forever. A sea swirls inside of me. Daddy says, it's okay to be cross. We can't stop the feeling or the sea swirling, says Mummy, but we can watch the waves as they roll. We listen to the water race back and forth. We love you like the sea loves the shore, they tell me. I love you too, I say, and the swirling waves calm. Summer makes way for autumn. Daddy's new house has a garden just for us, and under a blanket of red and orange, we stomp, stomp, stomp. But a strong wind begins to blow this way and that. It spins around my tummy. Was it my fault? So that's the first story, Changes, that book to help children with the feelings they may have when they're experiencing a family breakup. On to All the Animals Were Sleeping, which is a narrative non-fiction story. So it's a story of a little mongoose. I have one here. But it's also got an educational angle because we're going to learn about all the different ways animals sleep in the Serengeti. Beautiful pictures by Jenny Lovely, who is fantastic at landscapes. There are a few, I'll show you in here. Just beautiful pictures. Okay. On the dry grassy plains of the Serengeti, the evening sky was awash of yellow and red. Dusk settled on the leaves, shadows fell from the trees. A little mongoose stood up on its hind legs and sniffed the air. The little mongoose scurried off, 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 looking for a canopy of green, where giraffes rested on long legs. Some lay like shells, curled beneath the tall flat tops of the acacia trees, their necks nestled on markings of tan and brown. All the animals were sleeping. The little mongoose scrambled on, crisscrossing through the cool shade of the forest. High in the trees, the vervet monkeys hugged the boughs. Their toes and tails hung like fruits from the branches. All the animals were sleeping. The little mongoose padded through the crisp golden grasses. Zebras bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, their streaks of black and white camouflaging them in the leafy ground. All the animals were sleeping. And I'll stop there and just briefly show you some of the facts in the back, as Stuart said. This is a narrative non-fiction book, so in the back there are some extra facts about the ways the animals sleep and why as well. So a little bit about, yeah, it's a really good way, I think, of bringing a sense of wow to children about the way we live and the animals around us. I think it's actually quite nice. I was thinking the other day, it's quite nice for in terms of like a way of showing children a different way of caring for the planet, and like a climate change book, which can be, you know, quite anxiety inducing. I'm hopeful that these books that I did with Nosy Crows, and we also did Time to Myself for Winter, really showcase how amazing the world is and an appreciation for wildlife and animals. So hopefully the next generation will go on to feel that sense of wow and awe from stories like those.
Yeah, they definitely do. I know that my little test reader absolutely loved that book. So yeah, thanks so much for writing both of these books. They're both wonderful. We're going to move on to the next section, which is just a little Q&A section in case anyone wanted to ask Clare about anything in particular about the two books. I've prepared a few questions as well, just in case we're all feeling a bit shy. But it'd be nice if you guys got to have an input. First of all, so you can either put a question into the chat box and I can read it out for you, or you can just unmute yourself and ask, and we'll try and do it in an orderly manner. And I'll just go first then, just to give people a bit more thinking time in case they did want to ask. So Clare, my first question was, you always write with such a sense of emotion, and it feels that every word is laced in the theme of the story. All your books, but you know, especially these ones, they feel so beautifully and well executed. And with Everything Changes, in particular, that struck a strong note with myself personally. But what I was wondering, what it was you were hoping that children will take away from reading it. So what do you want them to, I guess, after they've read that, to take from it, and how might it help them, hopefully?
Oh, and thank you, first of all, Stuart, for your kind words. I was having this conversation earlier that sometimes it doesn't feel like you're talking about me, but I accept the compliment. I think what I hope children will take away, I suppose, on a very sort of surface level, it's a book to help children going through a breakup. Those of you who've worked with me before know that I try and work from a personal experience. I think it does come across and it does show. In this case, I had several drafts of the story over a few years. I came back to it in 2020 when I was actually having some counselling from breast cancer. And what kept coming up for me again and again was this feeling that you can't control some things. And actually it was the pandemic as well going on at this time. So it was a really sort of relevant conversations about the illusion of control, and you know, sometimes things happen to us, things change, and we have to kind of go with it. But more than that, it was this analogy she said, the counsellor, she was talking about feelings being like the weather, you know, and so, you know, we can't stop the sunshine, we can't stop it raining, it might be foggy, we can't really push those feelings away, but they will pass with time. So that, I think, other than being a story that will help children hopefully feel a little bit more comfortable with change, it's a story where you can make space for those uncomfortable feelings that you have, and there's no need to sort of necessarily push them away, but sit with them, however hard they may be. People around you that love you, and they do pass. And I guess things don't feel so hard sometimes after you've been through them. So that's a very deep layer. I'm not sure whether children will take that away, but I hope they would. That they learn not to sort of feel bad about some feelings. They're uncomfortable and they're horrible, and we wish to get rid of them, but we can't sometimes.
Beautifully answered, Claire. Thanks for that. There's a couple of questions just in the chat, which I'll just read out for you just now. So Sarah asks, Sarah Dollar, do the ideas for books always come from you, Claire, or does Alice ever encourage you to write about a particular subject?
I think they usually come from me. I've got so many ideas that Alice is probably just not short of things to look at from me. But what she's really good at is telling me if I haven't got the angle quite right. And I think these examples are probably, these books are actually great examples. I'm going to talk about this when we do the Welcon session in September, because at the very, very early stages, this book was called A Lion Lie In, and it was a funny bedtime story, similar-ish kind of structure. And Alice kind of made the point that, is this really the kind of book that parents would want to read at bedtime, because it was funny and sort of ended, it wasn't quite soothing and lilting like it is now. And she made an excellent point. So it was rewritten, quite considerably with a more rhythmic, poetic feel. And she was spot on. Occasionally a publisher will say, could you write about this subject? But usually I've got a whole list of ideas on my phone, and I gradually work through them when I've got time.
Yeah, I can imagine with how prolific you are that Alice is probably batting away the ideas rather than having to give you too much help. But yeah, no, that's nice to know that there's definitely a dual input there.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So Sarah Broadley's asked, having two published at the same time must be quite an interesting process. How did you manage the deadlines and the timescales, etc., in the lead up to the publication dates?
Well, I mean, they don't necessarily happen at the same time. Even though they've published on the same day, they didn't actually clash. So this one, for example, All the Animals Are Sleeping, came before Time to Be South for Winter, even though that story came out first. So I've been working on this one for years, literally years. So most of the work on this one was done a long time ago. So there weren't clashes. And when the edits come in, they're not so big that I need to sort of portion out time. I guess it's not like working on a middle grade where I might need a significant amount of time to do an edit. I might do a draft, leave them for a bit, come back to them. But yeah, I can usually turn them around reasonably quickly. So I was lucky that they didn't really clash like that, except for the Celebration Day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can imagine that would have been a bit of a surprise when you first heard they're on the same day, or were you quite happy about it?
I think I was thinking, all the years that I hoped this would happen to me, bearing in mind I was writing for a while before, and then they come out on the same day. I think I hoped that they'd be more spaced apart so that I could really celebrate them both. But actually doing this kind of thing, it's no less special to have two on the same day than it would be to have them spaced apart.
Yeah. And it really is a sign of your prolificity is that you have ended up with two at the same time, because I know that you've been regularly publishing several a year for the last few years now. So I guess it was bound to happen at some point. Does anyone have any other questions for Claire, either on this book or the other one, or anything more generally as well? I've obviously got a couple of other questions which I can push on with if you don't. And yeah, so can I talk a little bit about All the Animals Were Sleeping? So the facts at the end of that story, and you do this in a few of your stories, Claire, they're the bits that my daughter finds are her favourite. I don't know why, she just loves facts, but so do you do the research for these in advance? Or, is that the first thing that you do? Or are you sort of adapting things for the story? Like, so, for example, do you write the story first and then do the facts? Or do you get the facts so that you can then base the story around those facts, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, first, I guess I'm really glad that she likes the facts, because I love writing books that do a bit of both. I think because I talk for so long, I always kind of like to try and create the books that I would have used or that I can see being used after you finish the story, but how else you might go on to use the book. How I do it now is not how I did it for this book, I would say. This was one of the first stories that I did that sort of blended fact and fiction. For anybody wanting to write that kind of book, I would definitely say do the research first, and it will save you a lot of time, and it will also give you a structure and a plot to what you write, which I find quite helpful, rather than sort of trying to work out which way the story should go. You kind of get given a ready-made focus, I suppose, because you're led by the facts. I didn't necessarily do that enough when I wrote these stories. I did a bit. As I told you, I started off with a kind of a fictional story about a little lion that wouldn't go to bed. So in this case, I kind of did it a little bit sort of at the same time, which did lead to a few problems. And some of my writing friends will know who are here. I had to change some of the animals further down the line because I hadn't done enough research. For example, the butterfly I'd chosen to feature on this page. Find it, it's a beautiful page. I realised partway in that although they were found on the Serengeti, they didn't roost in groups. So it wouldn't have been quite the same to have just one single butterfly. And that was my lack of research. So I'm lucky to have some friends who have lived in South Africa, and one whose partner was a bush guide. I also joined a Facebook group for butterflies in Tanzania. I was looking at sort of holiday snaps of people, watching all kinds of different videos of safari trips to try and find a butterfly that did roost in groups and was definitely in Serengeti. So I think I probably would have saved myself some time to do that beforehand. And maybe you might look more professional if you get it right the first time, rather than having to hold your hands up and say, actually, I've got a hole. So I think if I was doing it again now, I would definitely do more research before, just to make sure that your concept is really strong, and then you don't have to do that embarrassing thing afterwards.
Yeah. That makes sense, I guess. A few comments on that. Francis says, I love your attention to detail, and obviously great advice as well, because we know Francis is a picture book writer, and there's probably quite a few of you out there actually who write your own picture books as well. So thanks for that. I had another question. Here it is here. For me, again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make you blush here, but All the Animals Were Sleeping is so beautifully written, Claire. From the very first page, I felt like I was in the Serengeti. Some of the descriptions are beautiful. What do you do to get yourself in the mood to be transported to a totally different place? It's obviously, I know that the south coast of England's nice, but it's not the same as the Serengeti. So how do you transport yourself to that place and get the description so spot on that you can transport your reader to that place?
So I watch lots of documentaries. So I know I either watch something that's inspired the story, which sometimes is the case, just things on TV, or I watch something specific online to try and get a photographic representation of what it is that I'm trying to describe. Or photographs otherwise. So I look at stills of the scenes I'm trying to bring alive. And the other thing I do to get myself, I guess, warmed up in terms of voice is to do lots of poetry and read poetry. I think that helps with these kinds of books that are more lyrical and poetic. It's a different kind of style of writing, but I find reading and writing poetry helps.
Beautiful. As I've already said a few times, I'll stop saying it now. So that's end of my questions. Does anyone have any more before we move on, folks? Even if you think of something in a few minutes, you are free to put it into the chat, and we can ask them a bit later on. But if there's, go ahead, Katina.
I was just thinking, when you came up with the idea, obviously it was a fictional book in the first place. When you went to do It As It Is, when did you decide to put a bit of rhyme and lyrical sort of feel into it? Was that a feeling you had, or did you first do it like that? Or
I think it was Alice, actually. I think it was Alice that said maybe this could be a more lyrical kind of book. The actual a bedtime story might suit a more poetic lyrical kind. I think it was Alice's suggestion. And as you know, I write lots of different kinds. I think I probably had been doing some maybe more lyrical stuff at the time, and she said, maybe give it a try. And I never shut anything down, any opportunity down. with Everything Changes, for example, it was initially called a snow day. And then I think when Ellie Farmer saw it, I think it was called a snowflake in a snowstorm. I think there was a snow globe involved. But Ellie had suggested that maybe this could be about all 4 seasons rather than just snow. And I do have to admit, usually I'm quite quick at turning around an edit. I sat there for a week and thought, no, it can't be done. Definitely no way. And my critique group will be there. And this is unusual for me because usually I would just quite quickly see a way forward and just give it a try. But I literally took about 7 days, which is a long time, before I thought, well, I suppose I could try. and Ellie was so right, because the fact that, the seasons are changing as this child's feelings and life is changing is really significant. And I look at it now and just think, what a genius idea. But that was Ellie's idea, to make it sort of about, the cycle of a year. So yeah, I never really turn down any advice and always just give it a try, because you never know where it will lead. And not quite often, it's a good idea.
It's another part of your collaborative, like you were saying with picture books, it's so collaborative anyway. I guess we all do actually in our writing groups. People bounce ideas off each other. Anyway, thank you. Good.
Rachel has asked, I think she's asking, will all the animals we're sleeping be part of a series?
So at the moment it's all the animals were sleeping, and there was a story that came first. There's a picture of it here. Time to Move South for Winter. And they're both kind of similar in, kind of like sister books, I suppose, similar in style and format. But as yet, there's just 2 of those at the moment. I'd love to do more with Jenny Lovely and more stories like this, but at the moment there's just 2.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on, folks? You are free, as I say, to pop it in at any point, but I think we'll move on. Yeah, I think we'll move on. I think that's probably all the verbal questions for just now. So the last part of the evening is to do a little Clare, Helen, Welsh quiz. I wasn't sure whether to do it as a more general quiz or to focus on Clare, but I thought it'd be quite fun if Clare had to answer her own questions and see if she could get them all right. So we'll do that, I think, and you can just note down just on your computer or on your phone or on a little bit of paper your answers, and then we'll give you the answers at the end of the quiz, and you can see how you've got on, and we'll see how Clare's managed with her own knowledge of her own books. So get your pencils or your Word document or whatever you're writing on ready. So the first question: which Clare Helen Welsh book features a lemur called Lenny that sets off to track down the source of a nasty niff? So if you know that one, pop it down. No Googling. This is one of my daughter's favourites as well. She likes it. I think she likes it just because it's all about poo, and she likes your wee book as well. I think kids that age are obsessed, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. Tasteful toilet humour.
Yeah. Question 2. So this is a wee bonus point based on question 1. Can you name the illustrator, the beautifully illustrated book that we've just hopefully written down on a bit of paper? Can you name the illustrator of that book? I'm not sure they'd allow this in the education system, this question, because it relies on you getting the first part. But I know Clare mentions this person a lot, and she's talking about her books, so hopefully you'll have come across this person. I'm trying not to say anything to give you a clue. Number 3, name the award-winning book of Clare's that deals sensitively and beautifully with dementia. And again, a bonus question for that one is to name the illustrator of that book. I'll just use this as a little excuse to praise you again for that particular book. I think I told you this at the time when it came out as well. But I've got someone in my family in that situation, and it was so well written. I could feel that you can literally feel the emotion, like almost like the tide coming towards you. It was again really well done.
Thank you. As I said before, they're all such a team effort, and I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about at the Welcon session, is to see the stories at the very first draft and then different versions before you see the final product, because they don't come out as you see them with the published text. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. Yeah,
I can imagine. Okay, number 5, name Clare's first picture book, I believe, and I might be wrong. I'm hoping I've got this right. Which featured Captain Sneaky McSqueaky and his crew of pirate mice. Is that right? Was that your first one, Clare?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I absolutely love the title of this one.
That was a happy accident, that one.
You need to tell us after the quiz if there's a story there. Okay, number 6. I had to do quite a lot of research for this one, Clare, and I hope I've got it right. How many books has Clare now published, including these 2 that are published today? And this also includes all of her books, her early learning books with Collins, etc. So it's quite a big number. So if you can get it within plus or minus 5 of the number, you can get a point for this. Sorry, it said my internet connection's unstable. Did you all hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Do you have any idea, Clare?
Well, I feel like I should own up, Stuart, because I logged back into the Google document that you've set up and saw the answers.
Oh, right, okay.
But no, I didn't know, actually. I wouldn't have, I might not have got it quite, I wouldn't have got it as right, I don't think. Had I not cheated.
Okay, and one more question. In which year did Clare win the SCBWI Crystal Kite Award? And can you name the book title that won? So we're looking for the year that she won the Crystal Kite Award and the name of the book title that won that award. I'm sure you'll definitely remember this one, Clare.
Yeah, I did know this one.
That's such a nice award as well, because it's voted by your peers, and it's I was so happy when you won that one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was lots of happy tears, definitely.
Okay, so let's see how we've done, and we'll see if anyone can actually beat Clare at knowledge of her own books. So number 1, the book that features a lemur called Lenny. Have you got that one, Clare?
Who is that? You?
And the illustrator?
It was Nicola O'Byrne.
And the I guess 3 and 7 are sort of similar here, but what's the award-winning book that deals sensitively and beautifully with dementia?
Was The Tide.
And the illustrator?
Aisling Lindsay.
And your first picture book?
Was Aerodynamics of Biscuits.
Which, you'll need to tell us about how you came up with that name in a minute or 2.
Okay.
And how many, what did you, of course you said you saw the answer. What would you have gone for? Do you know if you didn't know the answer?
I think I would have said maybe 48, something like that.
Yeah, the answer, I think, and there's I've probably missed 1 or 2, but I counted 57. So I couldn't believe it. I just kept going through, and I just kept finding more and more of them. So I know, I thought initially, I've got to be honest with you, Clare, initially I thought it was maybe in the teens. So I thought it wouldn't take me too long, but yeah. So if you got within 5 of 57, you get a point there as well. And the year that you won the Crystal Kite Award?
I think 2020, but I had to think about that one. I had to sort of work back because all those pandemic years have kind of merged together. But I think I would have got to 2020.
And that was with which title? That
was The Tide.
Okay. So I'll let you do your own adding up to see how you've done. Now, let me work this out. Are we saying for that last one they have to get both to get the mark?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's fine. Claire has spoken. So it's going to be out of 7 then. So you can write down how many you got. Do you want to put in the chat box how many you got out of 7 if you're happy to share that as, and we'll see how everyone got on. So it might get a bit messy if everyone comes on video and speaks. Lots of 4s and 5s there. Wow. Yep, lots of 4s, 5s. Oh, did anyone get 6 or 7?
Swapna.
Yeah, so I think lots of 4s and 5s out of 7 for that. But that's still amazing that people know so much about you and your books, Claire. Yeah, you can have half an answer, half a mark if you got part of the answer for the last one. I think that's fine. Okay, Claire, yeah, we said we are going to have a chat very quickly about the aerodynamics of biscuits. Where did the title come from?
It was a happy accident. I was aware that there was a competition called the Greenhouse Funny Prize, and I was trying to think of some funny titles as a starting point. In fact, Swapna, who's here, she won the Greenhouse Funny Prize that year with Dave Pigeon. But I was trying to think of a story to enter. Didn't have anything, and then I think I was hoovering, something was on the TV, and over the noise of the hoover I heard the phrase aerodynamics of biscuits, and I was like, ooh, that might be a good starting point. Maybe I could try and make something out of that story. I never really found out if that's what they did say or not. That's just what I heard. It was nothing special on TV. It was just a random conversation, and I thought, what would happen in a bit like that? And then it was a surprise to me, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, and that was, did you say 2015? So
that it published in 2015. I think I wrote it maybe 13 or 14, maybe.
Yeah, so it's been such a prolific output from you over the last 7 years, really.
No, I can't. Yeah, I'm surprised at myself. Surprised and delighted, and just really grateful to be able to do. To make books that people enjoy and be able to celebrate with people like you guys. It's always the people that you do things with that make it more special. And I just hope that I can keep doing it for as long as possible.
Well, that's a lovely note to finish on. Just before we go, does anyone have any final questions for Claire? Or as my gran used to say, forever hold your peace. No, okay. Thanks so much, obviously, to everyone who's joined us live in the room tonight, and obviously thanks to anyone who's watching along in the stream and YouTube as well. So Claire's 2 books, Everything Changes, and All the Animals Were Sleeping, are both out and obviously available to buy, I'd imagine, at most retailers. So please get a copy if you haven't already. All right, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us, and thanks, Claire, for being wonderful as always.
Oh no, I said to you before we started, Stuart, I'm just really grateful that that you held this evening for me, because it's really nice to celebrate books, but it's a bit awkward doing your own thing, and it's lovely to be able to celebrate with everybody and celebrate the stories. And if it wasn't for you, it probably wouldn't have happened. So thank you to Right Mentor and Stuart and everybody involved in making the stories, including people that are here and that couldn't be here. And all my writing friends that came along this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
A quick last question, actually, Stuart. We should have asked, what book's coming next? Are you allowed to tell us?
Well, I don't know, actually, if I'm allowed to say. There is a thing in the pipeline, but it hasn't been announced officially. unless somebody here is allowed to say. I guess I could maybe say there's something with Little Tiger coming soon.
There is something very exciting with Little Tiger coming soon. It's another big hitting emotional book that's got a really incredible message to it. So watch this space.
Brilliant.
There we go, a nice teaser for everyone as we set off. Claire, enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Thank you.
I hope it's not too warm for you. I know Crete's a bit of a hot rock, isn't it? It's not much shelter and always very warm. So, but enjoy the rest of it. You will very much deserve that. Producing 2 books and having them launched at the same time. So, and thanks obviously everyone for joining us tonight. And enjoy the rest of your weeks.
Thank you. Thanks so much.